how do you interpret parables? And of course, a lot of Jesus' teaching, not all of it, but a lot of Jesus' teaching was in parables. I have a number of rules for understanding parables. Number one rule is that Jesus always told you what it was about to begin with. Now, a sower went forth to sow. It's about the sower, it's not about the grain, it's not about the ground, it's about the sower. A merchant in search of pearls, great pearls. A rich man who had 2 sons. The shepherd whose sheep went astray. He was a shepherd. You know, he always tells you what it's about. Or no, he always tells you who it's about or what it's about. The subject of it. And that, therefore, it is in what the subject does that the truth of the parable, the reason he is saying, giving you the story, resides. The second thing is this. He did not do sermon preparation. And so a lot of his teaching was in response to other people's questions. There would be discussion. There would be more questions. And then he would clarify his teaching with a short parable. As an example, as an illustration. And therefore, the parable has to be simple enough for ordinary people, like fishermen and farm laborers, to understand. He didn't teach in parables in order that people wouldn't get it. He used parables so people could understand. Now, the people who were puzzled by it, of course, were people like me, the clergy. And they understood what the parable was saying, okay. But what they didn't get was what he was himself teaching, because they couldn't make the kind of transition that was necessary. It was so utterly contrary to anything and everything that they had ever thought and believed. So those are the 2 elements. One, that the subject is mentioned first, so you get a really clear idea, and the second is that Jesus used it as to bring together his teaching in response to questions. And it's simple, it's meant to be understood. And the third thing is, you can tell by the parable who's listening. Because he used the parables that were appropriate to the people in front of him. So one imagines that the sower, for example, whom I've already mentioned, was told to an agricultural group of people. Fishermen understood fish. And then people like tax gatherers, rich people, filthy rich people, would understand the prodigal son. Parable of this prodigal son. And other stories that relate to that. So you see, this is the necessary assumptions that one makes before ever beginning to look at a parable. Because what the early church did was to spin those parables and add to them their own interpretation, and that interpretation misleads us in our understanding of Jesus' original teaching. And that is what we have to very gently, very carefully put aside as historical footnotes. And that part of those parables in the Gospels tells us more about the people of Acts in the early church than it does about Jesus' teaching. But you look at just the parable, and the parable will tell you a key element in Jesus' teaching every time.